Cartoons have been around for centuries, from drawings to newspapers to the early morning Saturday cartoons. Cartoon characters come in all shapes and sizes and can deliver many different messages. Gender roles are defined as the public image of what it means to be male or female. These roles are only one of the many messages relayed to children. Whether gender roles are harmful or give children a sense of belonging, there is a chance that gender roles can hinder a child's behavior and developmental skills more than they help.
I'm Nina Craven. I'm a professor of sociology at Delaware State University. So in cartoons, there is a tendency to have different roles between males and females. There's actually an old saying in sociology that men act, women appear.
Your voice.
My voice?
You've got it, sweet cakes. No more talking, singing, zip.
But without my voice, how can I...
You'll have your looks, your pretty face. And don't underestimate the importance of body language.
Especially in advertisements. And it really is pretty true in contemporary cartoons even. There's men are in charge of things more often. They're more likely to be doing things that involve anything physical, using their bodies, climbing, running, jumping, whatever. And women are primarily concerned with their appearance, with how they look. If there are women appearing, they are trying to get a man, or they're over-sexualized. So even in cartoons, exaggerated breast size, exaggeratedly small waists, very curvaceous. Even in Disney, there are curvaceous animals, even just the animals are curvaceous if they're supposed to be female. The other thing that happens sometimes is that when women are shown, they're shown with not as much attention to the face. I know one of the easiest examples for this is Miss Bellum from Powerpuff Girls. She is never shown above the neck unless it's from the back. You never ever see her face in the entire cartoon series.
Scott and Charlene Jones were both born during the Generation X era. Many cartoons they grew up watching were in the late 60s and the 70s. Gender roles in cartoons were prevalent, and as they looked back at their childhood TV shows, Scott and Charlene were able to share their opinions and only now realize that they were being taught gender roles.
My favorite TV show was Captain Caveman. He was a Tasmanian devil crime fighter, and he used to walk around with a club. He just stumbled onto little crimes, and he just solved them. I related to the character because he was like a little wild man, and you know, before he started fighting crime, he was like real nice and calm and mellow. But after you get into his crime fighting mode, turns into a wild man. He used to carry a club and just trolling around, just running through things. It's like my inner demons, my inner personality. He was like the inspiration for my first tattoo, which is Tasmanian devil, and I got that quite a while ago. The fact that he carried a club, the fact that he was wild. Girls is not really wild and they don't carry clubs to fight crime. And he was just like a little kid running around, like acting crazy.
My favorite TV show was Scooby-Doo, and I liked it mainly because I love mysteries and figuring stuff out. There was Velma, who was basically the smart one that figured out everything, along with Shaggy and Scooby. And then there was Daphne and Fred, who was the two, I guess, cute and handsome leaders of the group. Initially, I liked Fred and Daphne, and that's because, you know, they basically was the main character. They dressed nice. They were more popular. They were more popular looking. As I look back now, it's hard because I just feel like you have to look a certain way and be a certain way. To me, it's messed up right now, and when you look back on the same thing with, you know, with Daphne and Fred, like they got all, even though Velma was a smart one and solved all the cases and did most of the work, she didn't get as much attention. Even though it was 2 girls and 2 guys, Velma and Shaggy was never portrayed as a couple. They were always just Velma and Shaggy. But when you came to Daphne and Fred, it just seemed like they were together. Even though it never really said it, it was implied that they were together and they could be, you know, a couple or whatever. But with Shaggy and Velma, it was just like they was just there fighting crime or solving mysteries. But when you look at it now, it's like, why weren't they ever portrayed as a couple? Is it because Velma was short and heavier and Shaggy was shaggy that it was impossible for them to be a couple or to have feelings or whatever just because they didn't look a specific way? You know, think about those things.
According to Nina Craven, an associate professor of sociology at Delaware State University, children cannot tell the difference between cartoons and toy commercials. Companies make these commercials knowing that gender roles are selling the product more than the product itself in certain cases. Something as simple as a toy can teach children how to behave, and unbeknownst to them, children listen, observe, and learn.
In terms of toy commercials, the differences between commercials for boys and commercials for girls are pretty similar to the differences in cartoons and cartoon plots. The boys are definitely shown doing more active things. One really easy example is Lego. If Lego commercials are for boys primarily, first of all, it's really interesting. It's pirates, and it's Lord of the Rings and things where boys are going on adventures and they're building and they're climbing, and the commercials show boys building things with like their father or with other boys and coming up with these imaginative new worlds to play in. And they even have specific Lego sets that are called like builder sets where there's no directions on how to put it together. The whole point of it is that you're supposed to make something new. Now for the girls, they just had a new series of Legos come out called Lego Friends, where first of all the little Lego minifigures are taller and more curvaceous. They have fewer points of articulation. All of the play sets for these Legos and all of the commercials are focused on traditionally feminine occupations and ideas. There's somebody or other's house where you go and play, somebody or other's pet shop. So the girls in the commercials are taking care of animals, taking care of a house. There's very little emphasis on building. Whenever they show commercials for the girl Legos, the stuff is already built. When they show the commercials for the boy Legos, they're in the process of building it. So they're working on something cool. The girls, once it's already done, they're just kind of appearing again. Boys are acting and girls are appearing. And the difference comes off as very stark and very strong messages to boys and girls that boys do stuff and girls just kind of are there. The girl set does have a science lab, which is great. It's a good step forward, but all of her tools, all of like her microscope and all of her sciencey tools are bright purple. So why a girl can't have, I don't know, silver colored or actual naturally colors that actually make sense? No, it all has to be pink and purple. Everything is pink and purple.
While conducting further research, a survey was given to students on the campus of Delaware State University. 5 students volunteered their time and watched 4 toy commercials from 1994. Though interviewed at different times, they had very similar ideas of what was going on.
In the first Play-Doh commercial, it mostly talks about the molding, which you can push down on top of the car, you know, make the Play-Doh go inside the molding of the car, smash the other cars with the big Tonka truck that they had.
And they were just knocking over stuff, like the whole commercial, just rah!
More or less like very hype.
They had some type of, I guess it was part of the toy where they were smashing the Play-Doh and then they would build it to something else and then they would smash it again.
He had toys all over the floor, and his room was just demolished.
I think they picked rock and roll music because it was more boyish. Girls really probably didn't listen to rock and roll. The little girls probably didn't, but the boys was just like, oh, let's go knock over stuff when I hear this music, which they were doing.
The second commercial dealt with Play-Doh as well, but it was more on the girl side.
You know, they had like ovens and they had like a room with pink walls.
But they were pretty much baking like cookies, brownies, out the Play-Doh.
The music was very soothing, like, oh, let's cook, let's clean type women wrote.
The obvious difference was the first commercial was geared toward boys, so it was more like manly and macho, and the other commercial was more towards girl. You know, they were just being prim and proper, making their cookies.
Magic Tea set.
It sounded soft and mellow.
The predominant colors in here was pink and pink.
Girls drink tea. I don't really ever see any guys go around like, let's have a tea party.
They were trying to show proper etiquette, like since it was a tea set thing, they had their teacups and they seemed like they were trying to be classy, more upscale, but I mean, they were still pretending, they were still kids having fun.
The Stretch Armstrong commercial was more of a guy commercial to me. The commercial was about this toy that stretched and had very big muscles.
The way they were playing with Stretch Armstrong was, you got the hero and the villain. They would turn him into the villain, the mutant that he was, and then just attack the other action figure.
The boys in the commercial, the way they were interacting with each other were kind of rough. They were pulling on the stretch man. And the colors that were in the commercial were mainly red, since that's the color of the stretch man.
Yes, I feel like companies know, just like we know, what certain colors indicate. And I feel like if you are trying to target a female audience, especially like a younger female audience, using lighter colors like pink or yellow or like bright purple, stuff like that more, it targets females more than it would males.
The students surveyed were also asked to look at a list of toys and circle the ones they used to own. Brittany and Tashi both owned toys like Tamagotchis, Furbies, Beanie Babies, and Barbie dolls. As for Elijah, Michael, and Darian, they had similar toys like Hot Wheels, Legos, and Power Rangers. The only things that they all had in common were electronics like a Game Boy and Nintendo, or board games like Monopoly and Twister. It is very clear that gender roles are present in cartoons and toy commercials, but many people do not or cannot understand how gender roles affect children.
Gender roles are something that is sort of come to us from society, from the society and the culture where we live, because that's society's way of defining what people of different sexes should be doing. Most of us grow up with no questions about who we are and who we are supposed to be, and we just take on these gender roles. And the way I think of it is that gender roles give us options. They tell us, here's what you can do out of the whole infinite possibilities, all the range of possibilities. Here's who you are and who you want to think yourself as, and here's what you need to do. And to some extent that's good, because it gives you a pathway to go on, and it gives you certain defined ways to go somewhere. But at the same time, the other side of it is that it sets limits, and particularly if different genders see themselves as fitting within certain limits, then I would say those are the harmful effects, because it in a way takes this potentiality of this whole individual, a whole range of possibilities ahead of them, and it effectively narrows it down. People also feel when they fit, let's say, a gender role, often they feel they're part of their society. They have a place. There's a sense of feeling and belonging. But in the long term, and in a larger way, and if they have to go out of that situation, then they may feel a little crippled by it, because they have not really explored the other sides of their persona. Cartoon characters are important figures in children's experiences, because for them at that age they're almost as real as the real people in their life. So they look to them to, in a way, mirror the society around them. So they get the same messages again and again from these cartoon characters. Often, women or female characters in cartoons are seen as sort of ineffective in some ways, ineffectual. And they might sort of wait for somebody else to come along and rescue them. And I think boys, grow up with this whole idea of you got to be tough, and that means you cannot feel, or you shouldn't feel. If you feel there's something wrong with you. It's not the cartoon itself. It's not. That's neutral. It all depends upon how the person internalizes, because ultimately it's the message that the person's getting from that.